This
من يهده
conference
الله
will now
فلا
be
مضل له
recorded.
وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبعد again, my dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We continue with our series of Islamic Manners. We started about 16 or 17 weeks ago, and we have presented many manners or the way the Muslim should behave, starting from going to sleep to using the bathroom to make a wudu, ghusl, manners of entering the house, manner of the masjid, and so on and so forth. The time that we live in now necessitate that we continue to worship Allah to the best of our ability. The world has been taken over by the qadr of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is letting everyone know that Allah is in charge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a little virus, a minuscule creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you cannot see with even the regular microscope. And this virus is turning the most populated countries or the strongest countries in the world into helpless authority. All they can tell us is, wash your hand, just to let everyone know that Allah is in charge. However, as Muslim, we have to look at this affliction from an Islamic perspective. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for a reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created life and death to check us out, to test us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in the heaven and the earth to check us to who is best or who's better in our good deeds. So let's look at this concept, this sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of testing people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the beginning of Surah Al-Ankabut, Alif Lam Mim, حسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Do the people think that they will say that they believe and they will not be tested? Indeed, we have tested those who came before you, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will confirm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know, and He knows who are the truthful, and Allah will knows who are the liars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Mulk, He says, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ. It is He who has created death and life to test you, to see who is better from among you in good deeds. So testing is from the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to test us. And what we say, a test, a trial, an affliction. Imagine yourself going to a testing site or taking an exam. They give you a paper and you are alone. You do your best to put everything that you have in this paper because it will be graded, and we all will be graded one day. And that's what we mean when we said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us. And tests come in different shapes, different form, different intensity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that sometimes He will test us with something that we like, and sometimes He will test us with something that we perceive to be evil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. We shall test you with some evil and some good as a trial, and to us you shall return. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually detailed His test as He said, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّادِقِينَ. We shall test you with some of fear, hunger, shortage of wealth, loss of life, and fruit or vegetation and give glad tidings to the patient. Now the question, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala angry with us because we are getting tested? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with us because we're getting tested? We have our normal life, but suddenly things starts to change. Does it mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing us? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need to torture us, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ما يفعل الله بعذابكم إن شكرتم وآمنتم. What does it benefit Allah that He torture you if you are grateful and believe in Him? So let's look at the concept of being tested. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inflict the hardest test in the most beloved slaves of His. As the Prophet ﷺ said, أشد الناس بلاء الأنبياء ثم الأمثل فالأمثل. People with the toughest exam, people with the toughest afflictions are the prophets. Then the one with the most belief, and then the one with the most belief. Everyone will be tested according to the level of iman that he has in his heart. Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ إِذَا أَحَبَّ عَبْدًا أَصَابَ مِنْهُ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves one of his servants, he would test him. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the greater reward comes with the greater or the hardest test. طيب, is this for everyone or this is for the believers only? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tests the believers and He tests the disbelievers also. Everyone will be tested because this is the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. So the tests are different. However, your response, your answers is what makes it unique for you and for everyone else. Let's take a look at some of the trials and the tribulation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to some of His prophet. And we start with Adam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, is the father of humanity, and he gave him paradise to live in. However, he was tested. He was tested with a tree to live in, and Adam disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He ate from the tree, and then his repentance was accepted, and he was kicked out of paradise to earth, and that was a punishment that Adam got coming to earth. Adam alayhi salam, the father of humanity, he saw one of his children kill the other. That's a trial, that's a test. Nuh, the first prophet after Adam, he spent 950 years calling his people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what he got them calling him crazy. They mocked him. They saw him building an ark in the middle of the desert. And nobody built a ship in the desert. However, they were more mocking to him, more ignorant on him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw him, showed him his own son dying, and he told him, "Oh my son, get on us and don't be among the kafirin." And he was inflicted with seeing his own son dying as a kafir in front of his eyes. Ibrahim alayhi salam, as a young man coming up, he was thrown in the fire alive, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell the fire to be cold and peaceful to him. Then he has a tyrant who said, "I give life and I give death." So Ibrahim challenged him, saying the truth. He said that Allah bring the sun from the east, so bring it from the west if you can. Then he was actually tested, a funny test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to circumcise himself at the age of 80. And he brought the chisel when, without hesitation, he responded to the command of Allah. That's a test. Another test to our father Ibrahim, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to slaughter his own son, as he said to his son Ismail, "O son, I see in a dream that I'm slaughtering you. And the patient son said, "Oh, my father, do whatever you commanded. I will be among the patient." The afflictions of the Prophet goes on to Musa alayhi salam. Musa was harmed, was called names with his people, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ahzab, أَلَمْ تَرَوْا إِلَى الَّذِينَ آذَوْا مُوسَى فَبَرَّأَهُ اللَّهُ مِمَّا قَالُوا وَكَانَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَجِيهًا. Musa alayhi salam was a shy prophet. He would not bathe publicly like the son of Israel at the time, and he would go by himself to purify himself. So the people started talking about him, saying he must have something wrong with him. And one day he went to the river and he left his clothing on the rock, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the rock to take his clothing and to take off. So Musa was following the rock naked, and he ran passing by the son of Israel, and when they saw how strong he was, that was clearing his reputation. And Isa alayhi salam and his mother Mary, they were afflicted with the hardest accusation that could happen to a human. He was accused of being out of wedlock, and his mother, the chaste, she was accused of committing the haram, the adultery, and then his people actually conspired to kill him. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the toughest test. His test was harder than the average prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inflicted him with a lot. During the Meccan period, it was the period of weakness. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was abused. They beat him up. One time he is praying by the Kaaba, he prostrating, and Uqba ibn Abu Mu'ayt came in from the back, and he put his garment around his neck and suffocated him until he almost killed him. Abu Bakr came in and released him from their hands and said, "You killing a man only because they say Allah is my Lord." So they beat Abu Bakr up until his face was disfigured. His own family wouldn't know him, and once he was unconscious. Once he woke up, he said, "How did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do?" One time, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was prostrating, and again Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt came in and took the guts of the killed or the dead of the carcass of the camel, and he put it on his back, and only his daughter Fatima was able to take it off his back. The Prophet ﷺ, in the 10th year of Meccan period, his uncle died. Then his wife Khadija died. He went to At-Ta'if to call the people to offer Islam to them, but they declined. They rejected, and they pushed their gangs against him, and they threw rocks at him, and his feet was bleeding. So much so Jibril came to him with the angel of the mountain and told him that if he wishes, he would crush those people between two mountains. However, the Prophet ﷺ told them not to do that, and he wishes that of their springs come people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they saw this. Sometimes they were unable to even defend the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud saw many of this happening to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "لو أن لي بهم منعة," if there's someone to defend me or to get my back, I would have helped the Prophet ﷺ. Our beloved Prophet ﷺ was invited to eat with a lady who had poisoned the shoulder of or poisoned the lamb that she offered him. They accused him of being a poeter, a crazy man, and like I said, they tried to kill him. This is just the best of Allah creation. They are subjected to all this type, and we cannot forget Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam is the best lineage ever known to mankind. He is a prophet. His father is a prophet. His grandfather is a prophet. His great great grandfather is a prophet. So what happened to Yusuf alayhi salam? Yusuf was thrown in a well by his own brother, by his own brothers. Yusuf was sold as a slave. Yusuf was seduced by the woman that he worked for and the rich and famous in the city where he was. But he declined. So Yusuf was incarcerated and he was finally given the authority on the land. And then the bigger fitna comes when his own brothers that tortured and kidnapped him when he was young, they come back and and he doesn't revenge, and that's another concept. طيب. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inflict humanity in this time that we live in with a disease. And it's a fitna that I don't think anyone in our generation have seen the like of it before. What we are living now is something that we did not imagine. A week ago or 2 weeks ago, we couldn't imagine that this something that we could see. The whole world is changing by the hour. Masjids are closed. The Muslim are not even able to go to the masjid to do what we have always did, go to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is definitely a fitna. And during the time of fitna, what was normal before the fitna time is definitely not normal after that. So the wise or the knowledgeable people, they see the fitna coming. However, the ignorant or the unwise, they see it leaving. So we have been commanded in our deen to be proactive. And I'm going to explain this by a story. The story of the plague was an epidemic called the epidemic or the Ta'un Amwas. Amwas is a city right outside Palestine and it still exists. During the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the Muslim armies were all over the place, and Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah was the general of this army when the Romans were suffering from the plague that killed thousands of them. And the plague extended to the land of Asham. And Umar heard about the conditions of the Muslim. Muslims were dying and their hires were dying. So the entire family died. And there is a lot of affairs, especially with the inheritance, that needed the Amir al-Mu'mineen to go take care of his people. So he took himself and he traveled from Medina toward Asham. And when they were close to the city of Amwas, outside the city, Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah came out to meet with him to receive him. And the news came that death have taken a whole lot of life inside the city. So Umar made a shura counseling, and he asked the people to tell him what to do. Finally, he made the decision to leave the city, don't enter the city, and to go back to Al-Madinah. So Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, like I said, he was the general of the army at that time. He said, are you firaran min qadarillah? Are you running from the decree of Allah? Umar told him, if anyone else said it, he would have answered him differently. But Umar had a lot of respect to Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah. So Abu Ubaidah, Umar said, I leave the qadr of Allah and go toward the qadr of Allah. One of the companion, Ubadah ibn Samit, said, I have a tradition, I have a hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said, إذا سمعتم بالطاعون في أرض فلا تدخلوها وإن كنتم فيها فلا تخرجوا منها. If you hear about plague or an epidemic in a land, in a city, while you are outside the city, don't enter the city. And if you hear about this while you are inside the city, don't leave it. So we have a sunnah even before that, the Prophet ﷺ once was asked by our mother Aisha about at-ta'un, the plague. So the Prophet ﷺ said, it used to be a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then he turned it into rahmah lil mu'mineen. So the test of the plague was a punishment for the kuffar. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned it into rahmah, mercy to the believer. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ليس من أحد يقع الطاعون فيمكث في بلده صابرا محتسبا يعلم أنه لا يصيبه إلا ما كتب الله له إلا كانت له مثل أجر شهيد. طيب, we know the shaheed, the martyr, is the one who dies fighting for the sake of Allah. But the Prophet ﷺ changed the standards of martyrdom now. He said, whenever a plague happens in a city and the servant of Allah stay in this city patiently, seeking the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believing that nothing will happen to him except that what Allah have decreed to him, except that he will have the reward of the shaheed. So now, shaheed is not just the one who gets killed fighting fi sabilillah. The Prophet ﷺ changed the standards of shahada. So he said in a hadith that ash-shuhada'u ashr. Al-mat'un, mean the one who dies out of the plague. Al-ghariq, the one who drowned. Sahib dhat al-junub, someone who has some disease in his stomach. Wal-mabtun shaheed, which is the one who has the stomach pain. Dhat al-junub is the one that is stroke. وتحت الهدم, and the one who dies under a building that collapsed. And a woman dies while she is delivering, and whoever dies defending his money is a shaheed. Whoever dies defending his own life is a shaheed, and whoever dies defending his own family is a shaheed. All this are high reward, the best death. We all going to die. We all going to die. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the chance to die the best death, what is the best death? The best death is to die as a shaheed. I want to tell you about a horrible scene. During the time of Hajj, while the Prophet ﷺ was on Arafah, there was a man standing with the Prophet ﷺ on Arafah, and he was on his camel. So he fell off his camel, and the camel stepped on him and broke his neck. Yani that is a horrible scene. Somebody fall of his camel and he get killed. So that was mentioned to the Prophet ﷺ. Listen what the Prophet ﷺ said. He said, غسلوه بماء وسد, wash his body with soap and water. وكفنوه في ثوبي, and shroud him in his both garment that he wear for Hajj. ولا تحنطوه, يعني don't put any oils on him. ولا تخمروا رأسه, and do not cover his head. فإن الله تعالى يبعثه يوم القيامة ملبيا. So we see the blood, we see the broken neck, and we think this is something bad. However, this man who died on Hajj will be resurrected Yawm al-Qiyamah saying, Labbaik Allahumma Labbaik. So we could see things that looks distasteful, that looks horrible to us. However, there's a lot of good in it. And we could see things as evil, and it might be a lot of good for us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَعَسَى أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَى أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And you may like something, you may dislike something, but it is good for you. And you may dislike and you may like something, and it's evil for you, and Allah knows, and you don't know. So now we set the foundation that the tests are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's talk about the coronavirus. The coronavirus is a disease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to earth on this time. 2020 or 1431 is the year that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling mankind, none of you regardless of your power, wealth, strength, technical or knowledge that you have, can do anything about a small creation, a small soldier of Allah, a minuscule soldier of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, now earth is full of Muslim and non-Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. Be aware of a fitna, an affliction that will not only affect those who are transgressors. So some of the Muslim will be affected, as Aisha said, or Musalama said, أَنَهْلَكُ وَفِينَا الصَّالِحُونَ. Are we going to be destroyed while we have righteous people among us? Yes. If al-fasad, if corruption, if people are committing sins, sins that they haven't done before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inflict them with disease that no one has been inflicted with before. And we haven't heard about the coronavirus except recently. So let's take this to our belief before we start talking about our preventive measures. We have to strengthen our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to be patient on the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is going to happen at this time. It's very important that we believe that this sickness, this harm is happening by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can alleviate this harm. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن يَمْسَسْكَ اللَّهُ بِضُرٍّ فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّا هُوَ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inflict you with sickness, no one can remove it except Him. And Ibrahim alayhi salam in Surah Ash-Shu'ara said, وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. When I get sick, only Allah cure me. طيب. This contagiousness, this infectious disease, do we actually infect each other? Do we actually infect each other? طيب. Let's just set this point of confusion. We believe that germs, viruses, bacteria, which live in our body. Let's just agree that we have millions of bacteria, millions of organisms lives in our body. It coexists with us. However, only by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If one of these microorganisms turn against us, then it becomes a source of sickness. Cancer cells. Cancer is your own cells, but the same cells that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for your benefit, suddenly this cell turns against you, and it becomes a cancer cell that could harm. So Prophet ﷺ said, لا عدوى ولا طيرة ولا هامة وفر من المجذوم كما تفر من الأسد. Let's just take this hadith and dissect it. The Prophet ﷺ says, no contagious disease is transmitted. No contagious disease is transmitted without Allah's permission. And no omens. Yani people used to see the bird flying to the right, so they do what they're supposed to do. Or flying to the left, so they refrain from doing what they do. And the Prophet ﷺ at the end of the hadith says, and run from the leper or the one who has leper as if you're running from a lion. So this hadith tells us that there is no adwa, there's no infectious disease except with the permission of Allah. I hope you understand that. Infection happen with the permission of Allah. Let's just not be so dissolved in or so involved in our scientific principles. Yes, you can be two people, one is sick and one is not sick, and they live the same environment, but Allah decreed one is getting sick and the other one doesn't get sick. We also believe that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send a disease, he sent the cure with this disease. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent it, and he is the one who cures it. Alimahu man alimahu, whoever knows the cure, and whoever doesn't know it. Allah created it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove it. طيب, when we look around what's going on, we find the people telling us there is some preventive measures that we need to follow, and we need to follow it. So general health advice, don't touch each other. You mean to tell me I'm going to the masjid, I'm going to see the brothers and don't shake his hand? Yes, don't shake the brother hand when there is a need to be proactive in fighting an infectious disease. Giving the salam to your brother is the right of the brother. Answering the salam is a fard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا حُيِّيتُم بِتَحِيَّةٍ فَحَيُّوا فَرُدُّوهَا. If when you are greeted, then give it back with an equal greeting, or one that's better. Now shaking the hand is يعني من الإحسان. You don't have to shake the hand of the brother. You don't have to embrace and hug the brother every time you see him. So as it comes to us meeting each other and not shaking the hand, that's perfectly okay. It is not an obligation to shake the hand. What is an obligation is to respond when you are greeted. طيب. The health authority, the CDC, they said, wash your hand often. Of course, we wash our hand often. We make wudu, and we wash our hand, wash our nose, and wash our body parts. We believe that purifying ourselves is half of our deen, as the Prophet ﷺ said, at-tahuru shatrul iman. Making wudu or purifying yourself is half of the deen. We also believe that using the left hand is to do unclean thing. We don't use our hand to do things that is distasteful. We've learned this in using the bathroom, is we use the left hand to clean ourselves. طيب, this is just general advice that we have a foundation of it. There is an Islamic link to being clean, not shaking hands, and so on and so forth. Now we come to the one that we don't like, and none of us like it. We don't come to the masjid to offer the salah. It breaks my heart that Fajr is called and I'm at home praying with my family or praying by myself. Of course, it's very hurtful to stay home while the masjid is closed. But let's just look at this from an Islamic perspective. If you remember the manners of the masjid that we had a few weeks ago, we said in the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever ate garlic, onion, to refrain from coming to the masjid, because the angels are harmed by that which the believer are harmed with. And that's only because the smell. Remember, we said the people who smoke shouldn't come to the salah. People who have job and their clothing smells or something like that, they shouldn't come to the salah. That's just for eating or drinking. Now, being sick is a much stronger reason to refrain from coming to the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ did it. And the companions, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them, they all did it. So when the Prophet ﷺ was sick, in the sickness that he passed away after, did he pray in the masjid? Or did he ask his wives to tell Abu Bakr to lead the people in the salah? What happened is the Prophet ﷺ said, Muru Abu Bakr فَلْيُؤَمَّ النَّاسِ. Tell Abu Bakr to lead the salah. He didn't pray with the Jama'ah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He couldn't. So he asked his wives to ask Abu Bakr to lead the salah. And when they said Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr, she said he's a rajulun asif, yani he's a man who has a soft heart. He cannot recite the Quran because he cries a lot. He said, Innakum swayhibat Yusuf, you like the women that try to seduce you. It's not a curse, it's just a dua. When the Prophet ﷺ says something, it's a dua, it's not a negative curse. So Abu Bakr led the salah and the Prophet ﷺ didn't pray. But let's look at Ibn Umar. And Ibn Umar, as we said, is one of the companions who was very careful and cautious in following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. One night it was raining and he called the adhan and he told the people, Sallu fil rihal, pray in your household, pray in your houses, pray in your dwelling. So instead of saying, after saying Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, instead of say Hayya ala salah, which means come to pray, said pray in your housing or pray in your dwellings. Given a rukhsa during the rain for the people not to come to the salah. We have another hadith, and this one for Jum'ah, hadith Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas was on the member. He climbed the member to give khutbatul Jum'ah. Then he told the muadhin to say Sallu fil rihal. After he said Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Sallu fil rihal, Sallu fil rihal. That was Salatul Jum'ah. And Ibn Abbas on the member, and the people sounded like they looking around disapproving. So Ibn Abbas told the people, as if you disliked what I did, for the one who is better than you and me did it. And so Ibn Abbas was referring to the Prophet ﷺ, and that was on Salatul Jum'ah. So the Muslim, when they were praying Jum'ah, they did not pray Jum'ah in the masjid. Some pray Jum'ah in the masjid, don't get me wrong, because the muazzin was in the masjid, the imam was in the masjid, the khatib of Jum'ah was in the masjid, but the general population, the Muslim, the rest of the ummah were told to pray in their housing. I want to say another example of missing on the fara'id. في الحاج, if you read in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ. Complete Hajj and Umrah for the sake of Allah. فَإِنْ أُحْصِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدْيِ. And if you are prevented from completing your rites of Hajj or Umrah, then you slaughter an animal. So you stipulate when you make your intention that if you are uhsirt, if you are prevented, that you come back next year or something like that. I mean, it is part of our deen to follow the concessions or to follow the permission. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He likes His concessions or His permission or His excuses to be taken, just like He likes His obligatory act of worship to be performed. I want to stop here to give a chance for comments and questions and answer. And inshallah, we will have a continuation of this topic of how to deal how to behave during the time of conflict. So now, if the brother organizing the meeting can open the floor for question and answer, will handle, or for comment and question, will handle that. Brother Imran.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Hesham. So I have unmuted all the audiences, their microphones. So please, everyone, feel free to ask any questions you may have. Hello?
Well, the floor is open for.
So everyone, your microphones are muted, so you have to unmute your microphone first. If you want to ask any question, please unmute your microphone and then you would be able to ask your questions.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam. I have a question. So, like when we are praying Juma at home, so you pray 4 rakats or 2 rakats as a Juma if you're praying at home?
Could you identify yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Sajid.
Sajid. So Sajid, you said two questions in one. You said when we pray Jum'ah at home, we pray it for rak'ah, or how we pray. If
Yes.
you are, yes, if you are unable to pray Jum'ah in the masjid, then you pray Dhuhr at home. Dhuhr and Jum'ah are two different salah. During the day of Friday, Muslims are obligated to pray Jum'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says when the إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة, when the salah has been proclaimed during Friday, then come to the khutbah and listen. Jum'ah means the Muslim getting together in a masjid to observe a special prayer called Jum'ah prayer. If you cannot come to the masjid, then you pray Dhuhr at home. You don't pray Jum'ah at home. If you want to pray Jum'ah at home, which you can, there's no restriction on not praying Jum'ah, but we say it's more likely to pray Zuhr, not Jum'ah. But if you want to pray Jum'ah, I mean, I haven't heard of any restriction to pray Jum'ah, but then you're going to have Jum'ah in your house. I'm going to have Jum'ah in my house with my kids, and the brother's going to have Jum'ah in his house with his kids. And that's really that is not the concept of Jum'ah. Jum'ah means the gathering of the Muslim in a masjid to pray together. So if you are unable to gather in a masjid because the health authority tells us it is not advisable to congregate, then you pray dhuhr in your house. And Allah knows best. Yes.
Jazakallah.
وجزاك يا سيدي. جزاكم الله خيرا brother Qaisar.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Hesham. Jazakallah khair.
وعليكم السلام Sheikh Qaisar. How are you, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It's really not a question, but I'm just there appears to be some masjids that are not listening to the health authorities. Very few. None of the major masjids have done this, but there are some smaller masjids that might not have closed. So let's just make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they do get the proper message. And the example that you gave about just the garlic and onion, that smell, and then this virus, what this can do, some people are just not thinking that way. So may Allah give them the proper guidance so that they stop doing this and put everybody in harm's way, because it's not only them they're putting in harm's way, it could be other people also.
Naam, Sheikh. So let's just give an example from our deen. A group of the companions were traveling. One of them got a head injury, and at the same time he got a wet dream that night, and it was time for Fajr. And he asked his companions, I have a head injury and I have a wet dream, have janaba, and there is water. Do you find anything for me not to take this ghusl? They said, no, there's water and you have janaba, you have to take a ghusl. So the man took a ghusl, and his wound, he put water on his gushing wound, and he died. When the news came to the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? He said, قَتَلُوهُ قَتَلَهُمُ اللَّهِ. They killed him, may Allah kill them. And again, when the Prophet ﷺ make this dua, it's taken in a positive way. but it only shows us that don't speak about the deen what you don't know. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. The Prophet ﷺ, when the people asked him about something about agriculture and the date palm tree, he said, أَنْتُمْ أَعْلَمْ بِشُؤُونِ دُنْيَاكُمْ. You know your worldly affair more than me. So when the affairs are in the hand of the specialists, the experts, and they make the decision that to contain this disease is not to gather, then it becomes our responsibility to respond. In the plague of Amwas, Abu Ubaid al-Jarrah died from the plague. Mu'adh ibn Jabal died from the plague. Then and his family died. When Amr ibn al-As was in charge, he told the people, listen up, this plague is like fire. So when it comes, we all disperse. We all go into quarantine in the mountains. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left it. So those who take the chance, today I had to cancel Jum'ah prayer in the institution. And it's a decision, it's a very hard decision for administrations, for the imams. The imams and the people who are in charge of the masjid, they are the last people who wants to see the masjid closed. But they take this decision to protect the public of the health public. The objective of the Sharia is to preserve life. مقاصد الشريعة حفظ النفس. So protecting the life of the people is from the objective of Islam, and those who are in charge should take the responsibility of keeping the people as far as possible from getting harm. ولا ضرر ولا ضرار, and Allah knows best. Yes. Any other question or comment, يا أخوان?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I have a question.
Yes.
Suppose we want to do Juma at our home. So is it okay like we 3 or 4 people gather and do a small khutbah and Juma? Is that allowed and is it accepted, or we are going too far?
There is nothing that prevent 3 people, which is the least required for a jama'ah, to pray Jum'ah anywhere, in a house, on the job, when there is a reason. When there is a reason. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. But what is the sunnah? The sunnah, if you cannot pray Jum'ah with the people of your town, with the people of your jama'ah, with the people of your city in the masjid, it's better to pray Zuhr. It's better to pray Zuhr. But can you pray Jama'ah in Jum'ah? I haven't heard anyone preventing this. Actually, the more contemporary question is, can we pray Jum'ah in front of a TV in a closed circuit where the masjid have Jum'ah live streamed and we are in our house? That's a different question. But yes, you can pray Jum'ah in your house. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with it, because I don't find something that prevent that. In different madhab limit the number of jama'ah. So 3 is the least jama'ah. Some mazhab have 12, some mazhab have 40 as the least number of people to perform a Jum'ah. But yes, you can pray, but better to pray Zuhr with your family. It's a good chance to have your family praying with you. It's a good chance to get to bond with your family member. And Allah knows best.
Jazakallah.
وجزاك. Any other question or comment, ya Akhwan?
So, Sheikh, so this is Imran. So I just I want to share just a something that I heard a few days ago. I was trying to study about the Juma prayer and like the Jamaat prayer, like how exactly this whole thing. I was just trying to educate myself, and someone told me that that like a regular prayer, the Jamaat is important, but the Friday prayer is actually instituted by authorities. It could be your regional authority if you are in a Muslim country, or it could be an authority which you have actually set up with the rest of the other people. And if that is not available, then basically what you said, like if you are at home, then better to pray Zohar, unless you have like really big gathering where you can actually complete that. But again, I think, I mean, your point is well taken that if we are at home, then we will pray Zohar, inshallah. Now, I have a question, and which is related to what you said earlier.
Yes.
You mentioned 3-4 examples where like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed at home, and he asked Hazrat Abu Bakr to step forward and lead the salah. Another example you gave is the when someone has a garlic or something. Now these are the examples where someone actually restrained themselves. They didn't actually go to masjid. Is there any example in Islamic history where actually masjid is shut down or masjid is closed? I mean, the example about the Jummah that you give is also where people are asked not to come in, but the people who are already there, they actually prayed. So some people suggest, again, I'm just asking for my knowledge here, some people suggest here that, well, even at this time you still go to shopping market, you still go to some other places, so you can still go into masjid, you can pray on your own if it's possible. But is it possible to actually close the house of Allah? I mean, I'm just want to understand your opinion from history perspective.
طيب. So shutting down the houses of Allah completely is not any. It's not recommended. It's nothing. I mean, they in the Muslim land they may shut down the houses of Allah. However, there is still somebody in the house of Allah praying, whether it's the imam, the worker of the masjid. They are just keeping the dhikr of Allah, which we call a symbolic jama'ah. The general population are told not to come to the masjid. Does it mean nobody prays in the masjid? In my personal opinion, that we should have a symbolic service. If there is the imam or someone who works in the masjid, call the adhan and say, pray in your housing, pray in your dwellings, basically telling the people, don't come to the masjid. However, the adhan is called, which is the remembrance of Allah. The salah is established by 1 or 2 or 3 people inside the masjid, keeping the houses of Allah inhibited, or the dhikr of Allah is continuing. However, and I don't want to say it or take from the heartbreak that we all have when the decision to cancel the prayer service is done for the safety of the people. Then it's up to the administration or the leadership of the community, the imam of the masjid, the board or whatever, to decide what to do. Complete shutdown, then it's a complete shutdown. Amja have declared that there should be a symbolic worship. So uh, first 50 people come to the masjid or register to come to pray Jum'ah, then the masjid can see a jama'ah of 50. I say, and that's my personal opinion, is to cancel the services, because it might be hard to control this way. It's a stage, it's an era that we live in, and it's going to pass, inshallah. Eventually, people will go back to the norm. Our norm now is a different baseline. What was normal yesterday is abnormal today. What is normal today will be abnormal tomorrow. We don't want to set precedent that the people can continue to follow. So we say, let's pray with closed circuit. the Jama'ah is 50-mile range. Everybody's in his house, and the Imam is in the masjid alone, and we follow him through closed circuit. We don't want to establish this precedent because later on people might think this is the way to go. We have some time of affliction, and it's going to pass, and we will continue to worship Allah to the best of our ability. If that answers your question, Sheikh.
Thank you so much. No, definitely answers the question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comment or questions? If there's none, we say Jazakum Allah khair. Inshallah, we try to establish the halaqa next Friday and to address the behavior of the Muslim or the manner of the Muslim during the time of affliction or fitnah. Jazakum Allah khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. Inshallah, we'll meet again online 8 p.m. Next Friday. Inshallah ta'ala. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khairan, all the attendees. Please spread the word that this halqa is going on. Inshallah, every Friday, 8 p.m. And Jazakallah khair, Brother Imran, to arrange this thing. And we're really thankful for you and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we made it today. Inshallah.
Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu
Thank you, brother.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.